Great. So anybody who has ever gone for hunting out there will tell you that generally we have got two types of dogs. We have dogs in this case here that are bloodhound dogs. And then we have what we call the watch dogs. Now, from these two types of dogs, which dog in this case here, if you were to be a hunter today, would you want to work with? Which dog would you want to use really for hunting purposes? Would you want to work with a bloodhound or a watchdog for purposes of hunting? Which dog? You guys must answer me for me to be able to give you, good stories. I normally give good stories. Could you kindly tell me this dog that you would rather go out with bloodhound? They are saying bloodhound. Little do they know that this bloodhound, ladies and gentlemen, if you go with it to hunt, it will run after a rabbit, and it's quite a fast dog. It's a bulldog, quite a fast dog. You run after this particular rabbit or antelope, catch it, eat the whole of it, and then it comes back to you as a hunter, tells you, hey, you know what? That antelope was so sweet, and you can really see blood, right? Surrounding what here? Its mouth. It's licking this thing. So as a hunter, you haven't benefited from it at all. How about a watchdog? A watchdog does not eat raw meat. No, he doesn't eat raw meat. What a watchdog will do, ladies and gentlemen, is that it will run after the antelope, disable it, right? For example, in this case here, hit it right on its legs. And this thing, of course, will now go down. When it is wounded down there, it can't run any further. This watchdog will come and, of course, inform the hunter, tell the hunter, you know what? That antelope that you saw me running after too fast is sleeping somewhere there. Come, get it. So the hunter goes there, gets it, goes home with it, cooks, and gives the watchdog its fair share. So again, after my little story, between the two types of dogs, which one is a better dog? The watchdog, yes, the watchdog. And that is why we are normally told that an auditor should not be a bloodhound, but what? A watchdog. An auditor should never be a bloodhound, but a watchdog. Discuss 5 marks. An auditor should not be a bloodhound, but a watchdog. Discuss that. It's good to see Clement. Good to see Clement here. So an auditor should not be a bloodhound, but a watchdog. Discuss 5 marks. Ladies and gentlemen, one thing you're supposed to know is that really, as an auditor, our work is basically protective. We've been sent out there by the major stakeholder, known as the shareholder, to go and protect their assets from misappropriation. Now, one thing you're supposed to know as a background to this subject is this thing that I taught most of you in quantitative analysis called winning is not everything. Winning is not everything. Winning is not everything, but it is the only thing. It is the only thing. Before you understand these two little stories, you'll never be good with this subject. That winning is not everything, but it is the only thing. Before I go back to this, does this statement make sense? Does this statement make sense? Winning is not everything, but it is the only thing. Does this statement make sense? Does it? Somebody talk to me. I'm still giving you stories. We are still talking. I told you this thing. It's all about stories. It's not even about like the way I see you guys saying chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. No. People have done that in the past, and the whole class, in this case here, failed. No, it's about the story. The moment you understand that story, I don't even have to clear the syllabus. I'm not a syllabus guy, right? So winning is not everything, but it is the only thing. Ladies and gentlemen, this is quite a very complete sentence, which basically signifies what we call greediness. Remember that generally, individuals outside here are so greedy. People are very greedy. Is there anybody here who is not greedy? Is there anybody here who is not greedy? Anyway, Rosafi, anybody who is not greedy? Is there anybody here who is not greedy? I'm happy because the number is really increasing. There are 40 people. I mean, quite good. Good, at least halfway. Is there anybody here? In this case, anasema mimi sina roho black. Mimi ni roho mani moya, I'm not so sure. Mafisi tu, sisi sote. Anybody who is not greedy here, I like what Esther is saying, that sisi wote ni mafisi. Sisi wote ni mafisi. And that is why even going to heaven, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be a tall order for everybody. The good book of the Lord tells us that it's going to be very hard, in this case here, for a rich person to go to heaven, right? All of us in this case here, the chance to nakosa. I love that. Ladies and gentlemen, greed is a desire for good things. Greed is the desire for good things. And all of us in this case here, we like the fine things in life. All of us. Fine things, fine wine, all of us really. And we will never be satisfied, never. If you get yourself being satisfied, please know that you are no longer in this world. If you get yourself fully satisfied, know that you are somewhere 6 feet down, covered with soil. Remember. Ladies and gentlemen, there must have been that time when somebody was saying, you know what? If God helps me, and I get a job where I'm being paid just, you are not praying for so much, where in this case, ladies and gentlemen, we are being paid like 50,000. I mean, it will be out of this world, on top of the game. Kama ni msana nasema, nitavaa high-heeled shoes, nitakuwa nakanyaga ta, right? Alafu Mungu anafanya namna gani? Anakusikia. Anakupatia kazi ya kwanza, gross ya 50. Na kusema ukweli, miezi 2 ya kwanza, unasikia mzuri sana. Alright? But after some time, kada Mungu kiare namna hii 35, na unaweza kurealize hii pesa kumbe sio unaanza kufuliza tena. And yet here you are the other day, in this case here admiring 50,000. So unaanza kuomba, unaambia Mungu, naweka magoti chini, unaambia Mungu nisaidie. Mungu anasikia maombi sana. Kama kuna mtu anasikia maombi ni Mungu. Kwanza ukitoa hii 10%, unapeana 10% namna hii. Ukuwe Muislamu, ukuwe Mkristo, Muislamu anasema zakat. Ukiwa unapeana 10, hii Mungu anasikia. Mungu ana triple, anakupatia 150,000. I'm so sure even tonight there must be somebody here who thinks that 150,000 is a lot of money. There must be somebody here, but trust you me, it's a lot simply because you have never won. You've never received this amount of money. So winning can never be everything. Once you start realizing, once you start receiving this amount here, it ceases to be a motivator. It ceases to be meaningful. You will still be admiring bigger and bigger things. Ladies and gentlemen, the moment you start getting this, of course, in this case, you will start changing your life a little bit. Now you move from some estates, you go to a little bit upper case estates. Without knowing, again, you realize it's not money. So you pray harder. God listens. God gives you 500,000. For example, now you are a young CEO in a small company. You start getting 500,000. Do you think, ladies and gentlemen, that this 500,000 will be adequate for you? Will this be a panacea for all your problems in this world? If you start getting this amount, will it be a solution? Will it be a solution to everything really that you need in this world? Trust you me, no. This is the time you start seeing that you don't even have good friends around you. Now you would want your friends to be in Dubai or people that you can move around with the whole world. The more the money, Victor, yes, the more the money, the more the problems. The more the problems. So the more you get, in this case here, the more, in this case, you would want. So, and this is the thing, ladies and gentlemen, that I would want you to understand tonight. That, for instance, we shall come together, like 1,000 of us, and these 1,000 people, we say, hey, what do? Let's contribute 1 million Kenya shillings. Let's contribute 1 million Kenya shillings, each one of us, and then we shall be able to raise a fund of 1 billion, a fund of 1 billion. The moment we raise this kind of a fund, ladies and gentlemen, we'll say straight away, let's put this money where? Let's put this money in a new company called, we take advantage, Barclays Bank of Kenya was dissolved. We take an advantage of this great name, which has been marketed over the years, and open a bank called Barclays Bank of Kenya, right? This will be quite an easy sell. So now let me ask you a question. This Barclays Bank of Kenya, is it possible for all of us 1,000 to stay at the head office in Nairobi to manage the company? Is it possible for all of us to stay here in Nairobi to manage this company? 1,000 people, is it possible? Is it possible? Is it possible? No, absolutely. That management will be chaotic. Who now will be the senior most among us, these 1,000? The place will be noisy. Everything will be what? Yeah, messy. So then what we shall do, through proper corporate governance rules, we shall say, let's appoint 10 people amongst ourselves. 10 people amongst ourselves in the name of directors to look at the affairs of the 990 people. Now we will regrettably walk home having lost an opportunity of being in this cadre. Go home unhappy. Why are they unhappy? They know that these useless fellas who have been appointed here are not going to work in their interest. Wengi hawa ni ile Kiswahili ilikuwa imeandikwa tumbo lisiloshiba. Right? And really, you cannot blame these 10 people who have, in this case here, gone against their fiduciary responsibilities, protective responsibilities, and turned to be the biggest hyenas who are eating, who are misappropriating assets of this entity to enrich themselves. It's not their problem. There are so many external factors. Remember, we have got quite a lot of pressure out there. Like I have currently very many of my friends, even where I work, like the other day, some lady was asking me, how can you take your daughter to Molo Academy? How can you take your daughter to Molo Academy? Is it money that you don't have? Because most of them, where have they taken their kids? Nova, Pioneer, etc., etc. But you see, now I'm looking at this thing. You will take yours here. Mine will go to Molo Academy. Yours here, especially if they have a branch where they are doing KCSE, KCPE. Yours will be pumping in like they pay about 600,000 a year. Mine has expenses, and the expenses are quite huge. At times, a kid will come from here, and then they tell you, you know what, Daddy, we are required to go to Israel. And you see, now going to Israel means what? That you put your hand in your pocket and finance this, because that kid can't be left home alone. You know, it's a group thing. They have to go together. So the kid can't be left home alone. So in this case, you are pumping like 600,000 plus other expenses every other year. And I'm so sure. Mine, I pay Molo Academy, I pay how much? Is it 19,000 per term? Yes. 19,000 per term, yes. 19. But surprisingly, your kid will get 380. My kid will get 420. Right? But you see, the concept is this. Ladies and gentlemen, that we have people out there who are really putting you through a lot of pressure, and here you are being foolish. You would want to shine more than all your friends. At the end of the day, what will you do? You will start stealing. Ladies and gentlemen, if you look at what we call the fraud triangle, we have what we call the fraud triangle. Fraud triangle looks like this. One of this corner is what we call, what pushes you to think of engaging in fraud is what we call pressure. Pressure, the motivation, pressure. So you could be pressured perhaps by your family. You are a husband, I mean, whose wife every other day wants money at home, money that she knows that you are not earning. You are a person who gets like 200,000, but this pretty madam here wants you to be depositing, for example, with her like 20,000 every other night. So it means that this gentleman ataenda kazini ataiba, right? Right? So pressure coming from all quarters, ladies and gentlemen, can really push somebody to think of what here? Stealing, right? And then now we have opportunity here, opportunity. Ladies and gentlemen, remember, like now, if you are a policeman, trust you me, some of these policemen will even go to heaven. Let me tell you the truth. Because I mean, look at their salaries. And here you are having people on the road who are stretching to give you. So there is an opportunity. Somebody, when we started this, somebody told me that mwalimu, sisi wote ni mafisi, ni vile tu hujapata opportunity. Wengine unakana unasema serikali ni wezi, Anne Waiguru ni mwizi. Trust you me, some of you, mukipatiwa chance, time will tell, you may become worse thieves than the current people that we have. So opportunity has to be there. Opportunity. And then lastly, we have what we call rationalization. And ladies are very good at this, rationalization. So utapata mtu kwa mawazo yake, yeye anaanza kusema, unajua ni hata nikiiba sijafanya makosa. Sababu gani? Huyu jamaa anaandapay mimi. Huyu anaandapay mimi. Right? Ati wacha tu niibe hii peke yake leo, siku zingine nitawacha. So unaanza kurationalize. Ati sio mimi peke yangu kwa ofisi nafanya hivi. Right? Ati nisipoiba na hawa, naweza nikauawa. So you start rationalizing, and as you rationalize, now automatically you will make stealing part of your traditions. I was talking about these 10 people who have been appointed as who? As directors to come and manage affairs of who? Affairs of these 990 people who have gone home. If we are not careful, trust you me, if we are not careful, these 10 people will steal this fund. Within a year, you'll be having nothing. 80% of employees here in Kenya go to their workplaces every morning with an intention of stealing. 80%. Ukweli ama uongo? Ukweli ama uongo? 80%. Na unapata hata wengine unafanya maombi, unasema Mungu nisaidie. Mungu nisaidie iwekwe vibaya. Mungu nisaidie usupplier akija kuchukua cheki yake aniacheka kitu. Now at times you know that most of these suppliers really go through hell for them to be able to accumulate capital to supply. Some of them are making losses because they borrowed monies where they are paying from Shylocks, where they are paying interest up to the tune of 20%. And here you are squeezing something out of them. It's quite unfortunate. But most of us, because of lack of knowledge, because of the kind of a spirit that we have in us, we always think that everything is okay. We are trying to do what it's right. No wonder your son comes at home every time. They tell you that, you know what, mommy, I'm number 57 out of number 59. Paka CBC na warumia hakuna saa kugrade. We shall overcome, right? We shall overcome. Now, ladies and gentlemen, listen here, and listen to me very well. Now, when you look at this particular thing, we have this Alibaba and the 40 thieves. Alibaba, Mary Mothui is saying she's lost. No. Remember when we started, ladies and gentlemen, what did we say? We said, today I'm only giving you stories. Today, I'm giving you stories. Do we agree about that? Do we agree about that? Do we agree about that? I have to start from somewhere. Do you agree about that? We agree, and you like it. Don't even ask which topic is this really. Don't ask. At the end of the day, everything will make sense. You listen to my stories. Listen to my stories. At the end of the day, everything will make sense. Now here we have the 10 thieves. in the name of who? Directors who are messing up. Look at, for example, our circles. Our circles, ladies and gentlemen, are, ladies and gentlemen, on their knees simply because of what here the thieves, the Alibaba and the 40 thieves, right? 10 thieves. So now we have this 990 like that. So these are 990 investors would want to put safeguards that will ensure that even if these guys here, agents here, they are agents still, they don't steal to the extent of putting the company's going concern under jeopardy. No. So they want to put safeguards. Among the safeguards that they are required by law to have is appointment of an auditor. Appointment of an auditor. And we must ensure that the auditor we shall appoint will not become part and parcel of these thieves. We must ensure that the auditor is independent. And that is why all definitions of the word auditing or auditor, we normally say that an auditor is an independent. Auditing is an independent examination of financial statements, independent. So this guy has to be very independent of the management of this company for him to be able to give us opinions that are unbiased, opinions that are truthful. So the auditor must be what here? Somebody must be independent. And how do we get to tell that for sure this auditor is independent? Remember, the auditor can only be said to be independent kama yeye ni baba musafi. Can only be said to be independent kama yeye ni baba safis. Safis. Very, very important. So when we talk of safis, ladies and gentlemen, the independence criteria, this S stands for who? This stands for self-interest. Self-interest. This A stands for advocacy. Advocacy. This F stands for familiarity. Familiarity. This I stands for what here? Intimidation. 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 This S stands for what here? Self-review. Self-review. So every time they talk of the auditor being independent for purposes of him, giving us unbiased opinion regarding yes, ladies and gentlemen, whether the financial statements we're keeping here are true, stroke fair, then we will audit lazima kuwe namna gani baba? Surface like that. Now, ladies and gentlemen, these are very serious threats to independence. Assuming that this auditor here is called Susan, CPA Susan looks a nice name. So assuming this is CPA Susan happens to be married, this is just an example, happens to be married to the CEO of Safaricom. And she got married to the CPA of Safaricom when CPA Susan was a student in my class. Great. Now here, Susan amesema ameangukia bahati, jackpot. Getting married to somebody who is bringing home like 10 million Kenya shillings every month. Every month. Trust you me, if that happens, and later on, now CPA Susan has been appointed by Safaricom. Now she has finished her CPA. She has done a few auditing here and there, and now she has established her own firm. And then at the end of the day, she becomes quite reputable. Now she forms the fifth, the big four. Now we talk of big five. And CPA Susan's and associate. CPA Susan and associates automatically happens to be among the big what? Big five. Now Safaricom identifies this lady, tells this lady, come and do what you come and audit Safaricom. Do you think in this case, ladies and gentlemen, Susan's pendulum, do you think Susan's pendulum will ever swing towards saying that Safaricom is a bad company? If she says Safaricom is a bad company, auditors' words are very strong. If she says that Safaricom is a bad company, automatically the CEO goes home. Ladies who are in this house, Who would want a man who has been earning like 10 million Kenya shillings a month to come home, stay there without a job? His work will be to flip through Netflix channels. Nobody. It means, ladies and gentlemen, that Susan's pendulum will be, in this case here, swinging towards one direction. One direction. Saying what? That Safaricom is a good company. Safaricom's financial statements are okay. Every time she says Safaricom's financial statements are okay, of course, in this case, the company continues becoming what here, more even reputable. The husband's salary goes up. Not forgetting the concept of what here, bonuses. So she has an interest to protect. So it means in this case, ladies and gentlemen, you know, an auditor should be able to give what we call unbiased opinion. An auditor's pendulum is supposed to be swinging in both ways, depending on the evidence that this person gets. If he gets bad evidence, then of course he stops there and he says Safaricom's financial statements, for example, are qualified as regards to this and this matter. So depending on, so when he's looking for evidence, he's in this case, ladies and gentlemen, his approach should always be what here, very unbiased. But if you have a situation where her pendulum is only moving towards saying Safaricom is good, that's quite a big threat. That means that really the outcome of our audit is quite dependent. It's not independent. It is dependent, right? The outcome up there is already predetermined. Why? Because there is an interest that she has because of what here, serious relative being at the board. It could be a son, it could be a husband. The interest could also come in the name of what here, serious investor. You can imagine, like now here we have a gentleman here called Victor Odhiambo. If Victor, for example, some 20 years ago, I don't know where Victor was 20 years ago, assuming Victor is a big man like myself. 20 years ago, Victor was able to put like in 10 million to Safaricom shares through the IPO. 10 million that time, ladies and gentlemen, 10 million. It means that this amount has grown. Has grown how many times? This amount has grown 10 times. It means that his investment now, 20 years down the line, in Safaricom is about 100. And then we come and appoint this gentleman called Victor Odhiambo to audit Safaricom. He knows that if he goes ahead and says that Safaricom financial statements are bad, what will happen? The share price will go down. The share price will go down. So automatically his pendulum would only be saying, hey, you know what? Financial statements of Safaricom are okay. They are unqualified. Once he gives that kind of an assurance to the industry, to the country, automatically the share demand of Safaricom goes up, and as such, the share price goes up. He reaps big. So he has an interest, and because of that interest, his outcome, his opinion is always predetermined. Very important for you to know this. So the most important thing is to ensure that as we appoint this auditor here, the auditor has to be what here, very independent. And that is why we normally say the annual general meeting members, the shareholders of this company are supposed to be very informed. Like now you'll come and get, ladies and gentlemen, shareholders keeping on reappointing their auditors. When you keep on reappointing your auditors, year in, year out, what are you doing? You are basically exposing this audit to these thieves, to these directors. They'll stay together for a very long time, and then they'll become like family. You know, once I audit you, for instance, for 10 years, honestly, we'll reach a level where maybe you have sat down to get a drink. It doesn't have to be a beer, but over 10 years, not unless, ladies and gentlemen, remember an auditor. And these directors are not supposed to be so close. There must be some professional distance, and that professional distance is normally killed. This familiarity. That is why in a place like UK, like USA, we have got what we call the Stubbornness Oxley Act, which in this case here puts the maximum number of years you can audit one entity at what year? Somebody 3 years. But in Kenya, I know of some auditors who have been in these organizations forever, over 10 years. So it is high time, because I know that you guys are out here, you're also investors, always be thinking of changing auditors. The more you change the auditors, the better. Of course, I know somebody will make an argument, even from your past papers, that when, for example, you have an auditor who has overstayed in a company, that these guys here become very good with our systems. They're able, in this case here, to advise quite a lot. True, we don't refuse that. But you see the risk of these guys here getting conjoined with these directors at the hip will cost this company massive losses. I would rather bring in a new auditor to learn these systems afresh. After all, we know that a new broom sweeps better. A new broom, so long as you give them an enabling environment, a new broom sweeps what here? Sweeps better. So the same happens with this intimidation. One time, for example, the auditor came to the audit committee and told the audit committee, you know what? One of the directors came and put a gun on my head, trying to influence my outcome. If there is any indication of an auditor who is under undue pressure, that's an auditor who is intimidated, that auditor should be removed from that particular engagement. Because if you continue with that auditor, ladies and gentlemen, who is so much under undue pressure, then he can only survive in that environment if he keeps on saying that this particular company is what is good. The same case with self-review. How does self-review, when CPA Susan comes to audit Safaricom be able to identify that this lady has got more to offer other than auditing? Remember, an auditor is an all-round professional. He can do matters tax, he can do a lot of consultancies. So, ladies and gentlemen, when in this case here, this lady comes here, of course, through advisory, chances are she'll be given to compute tax by this particular company. So she's being given an audit engagement. So when you are given an audit engagement, there is no problem. This lady will finish doing her computations. That computed tax will find its way to the financial statement. So in the financial statements, in the income statement, you will see the tax for the year. For example, the tax for the year is 10 million Kenya shillings. Ladies and gentlemen, listen and listen to me very well. The lady, of course, having finished computing this figure, will insert it there. So all the financial statements are given to the directors. The directors sit through a board resolution. They are able to pass a resolution saying that these are our financial statements and we own them. And once they have passed such a resolution, the same financial statements now are given onward to the auditor for purposes of what here? Auditing. And remember, an auditor is supposed to exercise what we call professional skepticism. Professional skepticism, ladies and gentlemen, we are required to have a questioning mind. Professional skepticism is whereby we doubt everybody. When they give us evidence, we tell them, you know, this evidence you have given me is so nice. But especially when it comes to us from internal sources, even if it's nice, always ask the directors or whoever was given you an internal evidence information, ask them to put that evidence in writing. Wakisikia, nipatie a management representation. It's called a management representation. Wengi kama ni uoga wanaogopa sana kuandika. So tell them, give me this, right? And the professional skepticism, when they come and tell me that, you know what, this was the depreciation of us, of our PPE last year, I'll tell them no, or rather fine, let me recompute again this figure. Ladies and gentlemen, listen, I'll be able to be very skeptical with the other components. Like with sales, I'll be very skeptical. I would want to get sufficient, appropriate audit evidence to be able really to ascertain that the sales figure that I have is correct. When it comes to cost of sales, the same, because I've never seen this figure before. But now look at this. When it comes to tax, who computed this tax? It's me, the auditor. When I reach here, actually I'll smile because I know that I'll not be able to do any work here. I can't doubt this. So I drop my skepticism down. Even if I was to audit this figure and then I realize it is wrong, there is no way I will be able to do what here. There is no way I'll be able to issue. There is no way I'll be able to even alert the management that this figure was wrong. Why is that the case? It's because of self-review, relooking at the work, relooking at some job that are done earlier on. It's a big threat. It's a big threat. It's a big threat. Ladies and gentlemen, kabla niendelee na story yangu, kwanza paka hapo tuko pamoja kweli? Kwanza paka hapo tuko pamoja kweli? Paka hapo kwanza tuko pamoja kweli? Please pia muulize maswali. Remember, we are not studying any topic. I simply want you to get a background of this subject. In a way, hata ukienda kwa any interview, people will know that this is a very bright person I'm dealing with. Great. Advocacy. How does this advocacy come? Advocacy, ladies and gentlemen, advocacy. Kama ile wakati wa IBC ile ya kitambo, ile wakati Jubilee walikuwa kimoja. Ngosikia Jubilee pamoja, right? Na wale wajamaa wengine pia walikuwa pamoja pande ile. You saw what happened with some IBC commissioners. You know, IBC is supposed to be a neutral arbiter. They are never supposed to take sides. But you guys must have seen some commissioners who came point blank and went to the side of the president, right? So meaning that these guys had shown the public who they were supporting, whose advocate they were. If that happens in whichever way, perhaps you've been pressured by the management. If it happens that you start promoting their interest in whichever way, be it in a court of law, be it in some form of marketing, then automatically you are their advocate. And once in this case here that anomaly has been pinpointed by anybody, then you should resign as an auditor, because, ladies and gentlemen, you will be biased in your audit. So basically, when you talk about advocacy, advocacy is all about promoting interests of your client. Like now, if you look at our college, RCM Online College, I mean, I want to believe we are the biggest college. I mean, which other college can be having like 150 students over AFM? It's only us. Nobody, even since I started teaching those long old days at Visions many years ago, I've never taught one classroom that has 100-something students. How are we getting these students? It's because of some of you. Some of you are my friends on Facebook. So you go to Facebook and you keep on doing what you're sharing. So assuming that RCM Online College in future becomes a massive institution, and I'm really praying it's going to become a massive thing. So if you are sharing my post Jacqueline Cherono, if you are sharing my post straight away, the public automatically knows where your stand is. That you and the RCM, nini kimoja. So the public knows in the past, you've been promoting our interests. So in the future, when we give you an opportunity to audit us, even if you find a problem at RCM Online College and you start telling people out there, people can't even believe you. I mean, they know that you and RCM Online College have been working on the same path, holding hands. You have been our advocate. So automatically you should be able to disqualify yourself. And I'm not saying that to have some of you in these cases, ladies and gentlemen, stopping doing what here, market, no, you should market Mwalimu even more, because you guys are thinking even beyond what here, you are thinking beyond audit. There are so many things you can do together. Thank you very much. Now, remember, this auditor is not supposed to be a bloodhound. Now, listen, you will realize that you have gone to these directors. These directors, in this case, that you're supposed to be checking on their affairs and then you report back. You'll go there, you realize that these directors are telling you that, you know what? We have stolen 100. You don't even have to audit us. We are telling you the truth. we have stolen 100 million Kenya shillings. The question will be, you as an auditor, you as an auditor, you as an auditor, the question will be, you as an auditor, are you going to be a bloodhound, or, and I want you to be very honest in this, or a watchdog? What kind of a dog are you going to be? You know, a bloodhound will come, see, in this case here, the loot is 100 million, and they laugh, first of all, their hearts out, saying, hey, you directors, you are the best people in this world. All right. And then, of course, you start, in this case here, asking for what here? Your share. And when they give you a share, for example, they give you like 30 million Kenya shillings, you will go back to the AGM. In the AGM now, you will even say glory to God for having given this company very good water directors. Please re-elect back all the directors. That will be your language. That's a bloodhound. You are coming, in this case here, with your mouth, ladies and gentlemen, in this case, you're covered by blood. The 30 million Kenya shillings, you are leaking all over. Even your weight changes. Or will you be a watchdog that will come and realize that these guys, ladies and gentlemen, have done a big mistake. And then, of course, they know that they don't even have to wait for the end of the AGM. The moment you have gotten something that is quite material, is a material theft, you can come and ask for a special AGM and report this matter to the directors. What kind of a dog will you be? Could you kindly be honest to me? Are you going to be a bloodhound or a watchdog when you will be an auditor in this kind of a circumstance? Tell me the truth. Tell me the truth. Tell me the truth. They are not talking to me. They are not talking to me. They are not talking to me, and I'm almost finishing. They are not talking to me. Yes, Stephen Guga, I'm only giving students here stories. Nancy wamesema wote ni watchdog. Wote Jendros, Jendros, my friend. Great. I think the only student mwenye amesema ukweli kabisa ndio Jendros, amesema atakuwa bloodhound. Sahi na 30 million, David, honestly. Sahi na 30 million. Yani utasema enyewe roho ilitaka kabisa kukataa, lakini mwili ikaniforce. So, ladies and gentlemen, so when we talk of an auditor being a watchdog, this is something that you are really supposed to be looking at now very, very objectively. The other day, I went to Milimani Law Courts just to see what happens in the anti-corruption courts. Now that I've started teaching this course called CFFE, Forensic Fraud Examiners. And then I realized, ladies and gentlemen, that if you guys are not careful, in the next 10 years, if here we are about 50, in the next 10 years, over 20 of you will be in jail. Nishindwe. Hiyo ni mbaya sana nimeongea. Riswa. Why is that going to be the case? Not that accountants are thieves. It's because you guys have refused to know what we call fraud schemes. This is how fraudsters will come to you. But these 100 million that we have, and this is how we intend to get it out of the company. Remember, most of those guys are not even signatories to the bank. Most of them are just out there. Others could be directors in the company. Others could even be outside totally of the company. They come and cheat you, and they always know how to massage and talk through your big ego. They'll tell you are the biggest accountant that we have around here. You know what? You'll take 50 million, and us will take 50 million. And there are like 10 of them. So you see, I'm the big thing. From here, I'm going to get a Land Cruiser V8. But you see, whose signature will be in the trail? It is your signature at the end of the day. Those guys will be nowhere. If you follow this case of the NSSF CEO, most of the people that they were stealing this money with are nowhere. They are nowhere, right? So if there is anything that you need to learn from this subject called a watchdog, number one, as an accountant, we need to know how to live well within our means. The moment you appreciate that this life is the same across board, so long as you are able to meet your basic needs, you don't need to steal anybody's penny. Like when I went, ladies and gentlemen, to the Milimani law courts, amongst the people that I really sympathized with are suppliers. Most suppliers right now are being taken through hell by the money laundering authority, by KRA, by EACC. So serious. And you see what people do outside in the central government. They'll tell you, you know what, I've always been told this, I've always been given these opportunities. They'll tell you, you know what, you bring 10 million Kenya shillings, right? Here is the tender. And in this tender, of course, you're supplying air. And because you're supplying air, you remain with 40%. So they give this tenderer, the supplier, they give the supplier 4 million, and then this 6 million, the poor man returns this to the people in government. This is the worst mistake you can ever do. Number one, you know that because you have supplied air, you don't have any invoice, ETR, invoice, to support any purchases. And you know how KRA is handling these matters nowadays. You don't have support documents, the entire thing is taken to your P&L as profit. So the first thing they'll want from you is 30% of this amount as what here somebody as income tax, 3 million. Number two, because of stupidity, you never even, ladies and gentlemen, paid VAT, another 1.6. And now when you put this with the accrued penalties and interest, it becomes a behemoth of a liability that you can never meet. So the only way out is for you to go and become what here? A guest of the state. That is why mimi hata utawahi niona ati nimesupply government. Sisemi ni mbaya lakini sitaki. Hata training ni ngumu sana usikia ati mwalimu ataanza kukimbilia ati training government. I don't want. Mimi I would rather do yangu niokote yangu kidogo ya 3-5 right? Nikule maisha marefu, because I know what happens at the end of the day. And remember, even for this guy to, after you've taken in, you'll not even get this amount here. Kuna accountant hapa anataka kidogo, kuna mwingine anataka kidogo. Wewe unajifurahisha kidogo uanze kuendesha kasubaru kaze hapa miaka 2, but at the end of the day, things are going to become very rough on you. Things are going to become very rough on you. I'm not discouraging anybody, but please, when you get into these deals, tell these people who are giving you these tenders that we have got what we call income tax. Tell them, first of all, you don't want to supply air, right? Do in this case here your mathematics and really get to agree. Agree that if it's 10 million, 7 million is going to the supplies, so my profit is 3 million. 3 million. Kwanza kabla kusema kugawana, kwanza tutoe 30% because me I must remit tax. Naambia namna hiyo. And it's very important that you remit tax. Nowadays with iTax, always run away from these things, ladies and gentlemen. All right? I must pay this. I must pay VAT. Now, ladies and gentlemen, kusema ukweli, do you know, when I'm giving you this story, do you know of some people already were victims of this? Is there anybody who knows somebody out there that perhaps could be a relative, especially in the construction industry, who is a victim of this thing that I'm explaining here? Very many. Very many. Very many. Very many. You'll be surprised. Those guys are many out there. There are many out there. There are many out there. Right? Unajua unadanganywa, wewe fungua kampuni, unakufungulia paka kampuni wengi, wanafungulia kampuni KRA email address wanaweka tofauti. Wewe upate emails from KRA. Now the day when KRA will catch up with you. Sasa unastakiwa, unaanza kusema nilienda kupatia so and so. So you cleaned money, you help people to clean money. Dirty money, you laundered it. You cleaned. Money laundering is a big subtopic in this AAA. It never misses in your exams, money laundering. You're supposed to know money laundering means what here, this washing dirty money and putting it into what here, somebody injecting it into, for example, the banking system. Those are things I'll be explaining, ladies and gentlemen. Now here we are, we come back. So you're saying an auditor should not be thinking of enriching themselves. No, kula kidogo kidogo, halafu mara ya mwisho ikuwe namna gani? Mara ya mwisho ikuwe namna gani? Mara ya mwisho uishi miaka mingi bila stress, where in this case you meet people, you don't have to look over the shoulder. No. Clean, like that. Clean, like that. Great. So here we are. We are talking of, ladies and gentlemen, auditing and what here? Assurance. And the moment you give me this particular kind of a job as an auditor, the first thing I'll do is, of course, to think of the engagement letter. Right? It's important in this case that we have an engagement letter to reduce on what we call expectations gap, to reduce on the expectations gap. You know, at times you'll get the client expecting this, and yet the law requires you as an auditor to do just this down there. So it's always important that you start by having this engagement letter properly written and signed. Stating this engagement letter, the responsibilities of the management. The management will think that the moment they brought in an auditor, the auditor will be able to prepare financial statements. The auditor will be able even to cook. Will be able to cook what here? They'll be able to cook even figures to enable them prepare. No. Put down everything. The responsibilities of the auditor, responsibilities of management. In this case here, the fees, right? ETC, very important. After that, ladies and gentlemen, of course, as an auditor, once I just get this signed, the next thing I'll do next day is to come to the office, right? And before I go to any other place, I must sit down and carry out what we call an entry meeting. Entry meeting is so important. We have entry meeting, we have exit meeting. So entry meeting is so important. Entry meeting, the first thing you need to do in this entry meeting is to read out the engagement letter. Insist on the responsibilities of the parties. Ask to know who is the chairman of the audit committee, because in most cases you'll be dealing with the chairman of the audit committee. Get to know who the chief finance officer is. Get to know if they have these systems like ERP, because these are system-based nowadays, system-based audit. Get to know the ICT personnel, right? You must have that organization's structure, all right? Because I mean, you're going to get this information from people out there. Now, ladies and gentlemen, listen and listen to me very well. Once I've done that, I'm trying to understand my client now. I'll go to the ICS. ICS is what we call internal control systems, so that I can be able to know what kind of audit techniques, what kind of audit plans, what kind of audit am I going to do? All right. So under ICS, I would want to know how strong this ICS is, how strong this ICS is. Remember, ICS is supposed to be an umbrella that is supposed to protect these books of accounts from being rained on, Not the normal rain. It is the rain of these greedy people who will never be satisfied. Wanaiba kama ni reli, paka wanaiba line ya reli. Ile railway. Wanaiba kila kitu, right? So as an auditor, I would want to really appreciate what type of ICS, what type of umbrella are they using, ladies and gentlemen, to protect the company's resources. So if, for example, I realize that the umbrella is very strong, that the ICS is very strong, then I'll be able to place reliance. And when I place reliance, it means that I do little work. I do very little work. Doing little work means what here? When the ICS is strong, I'll place reliance on it and I do little work. Do little work, yes. Do little work. Ladies and gentlemen, listen and listen to me very well. Little work means what? It means that I'll be doing small sampling, less than 30, because the company, regardless of how huge it is, if their internal control systems are strong, then straight away, I will be sampling like 20 vouchers because the internal controls are strong. What if I come and realize that these are the books of accounts, and this is the umbrella that these guys have decided to do what to use. For example, like ladies and gentlemen, like myself, I'm quite big. And then you get me out there during rainfall days, myself holding my umbrella, my daughter's umbrella, young daughter, which can't even barely cover my head. It means that I'm a madman. It means that if the company is doing this kind of a thing, ladies and gentlemen, I'll not place reliance on the company's ICS. And if I won't place reliance on the company's ICS, it means that I have to do a lot of substantial work. Substantial work is what we call the substantive tests. The substantive tests, there are 5 of them. We normally talk of R, A, E, O, U, like that. Substantive comes from the word substantial. I'll always do these substantive tests, ladies and gentlemen, whenever this ICS looks funny. So R stands for what here? Analytical procedures. Analytical procedures, ladies and gentlemen, and analytical procedures, it means that I really have to compute ratios and then I observe trends. Here, it's about inquiry and third-party confirmations. So under here, ladies and gentlemen, because these guys have decided to put an umbrella over a young kid there, they're mad people, I'll never trust them. When they tell me that these are my receivables, I'll ask for a debtor's secularization. I'll not talk to them. I'll ask for permission to ask the receivables, the debtors, to confirm their balances with me. Ladies and gentlemen, then I have, of course, even the same with bank, etc., 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 like that. And now that comes, we are here, ladies and gentlemen. Now this brings us to the end of our today's story. Today was just a story. I want to believe that you guys, at least that 1 hour, you've been able to pick something.